Just eat the goddamn crickets, woman. Honestly. Hello, Pulphounds. How are we doing? I just wanted to mention about my brief absence over the past week or so, week or more. Not fishing for sympathy. I have assorted health issues that when they're individual, when they're on their own, I can manage them. And something set everything off week before last and really knocked me off my feet. So I pretty much spent a whole week asleep watching, well, not really watching horror movies, but putting DVDs on and then sleeping through the movie, which is probably not the best way to watch movies. If you were hanging on and waiting for content and wondering where I was, I apologise. And if you've been following Eat Them Alive, I'm really sorry that you had like a week and a half break in between chapters. But I got one uploaded yesterday, and I probably won't do one tonight. But I think it's the weekend after that, so I shall be doing more Eat Them Alive over the weekend. So I'm in a few book fan Facebook groups. One of the ones I'm in, one of the people that are in it posted a question about listening to soundtracks while you're reading. And she kind of said, does anybody else do it? And I thought I was kind of on my own with that. Not really crossed my mind that it might be something that other people enjoy doing. It was really weird. Half the comments that people left were recommending good soundtracks to read to. And the other half were people saying that they listen to other things. And the majority of them were kind of like heavy metal or death metal or black metal. I'm not a massive fan of any permutation of metal. But... and I don't think I could sit... there's a lot of bands that I like, and I don't think I could sit and listen to their music while I was reading. I'd struggle to listen to music that's got vocals in, because the vocals are telling me something and the book's telling me something, and it just addles my brain a little bit. And I suggested some of the soundtracks that I like listening to, and I thought I'd pick 5 of my favourites. Now, I'm a massive film fan, and in fact, when I was thinking about starting a YouTube channel, I was torn between books or films. But there's so many film channels on YouTube, and a lot that I watch. I couldn't think of anything new that I could say, or anything particularly interesting that I could say that hasn't been said before. So there's some soundtracks that I adore, but I can't listen to them while I'm reading if it's a film that I know incredibly well. So ones like Fabio Frizzi's score for Zombie Flesh Eaters and The Beyond, I love those. I love the films. I love the soundtracks. But they remind me so much of that film, it just makes me imagine the film in my brain. Other ones like Psychomania, that's one of my all-time favourite movies, and the soundtrack is brilliant, but whenever I listen to it, all I can picture is the movie. Same with Deathline. I think that's a wonderful soundtrack. So I've got like 5 that I listen to regularly, especially when I'm reading specific things. Some of them are. So let's have a look. First one is La Danza Macabre, written by Riz Otalani. This was released in this country as The Castle of Blood, I do believe. Not an amazing film. I tracked it down because it was co-directed by Sergio Corbucci, who directed the original Django movie in 1966. and it's one of my top 10 favourite films. And if someone's done a good movie, then I do like to track down other things they've done. Riz Ortolani obviously did some amazing Italian soundtracks. So this is the film was from the mid-60s, and it's a bit of a gothic, creaky thing. So the soundtrack is very much orchestral, ominous, gloomy stuff with that kind of mournful organ sound throughout. That you got that kind of typical style in the mid-60s gothic chillers, seemingly especially from Europe. So that's one I do put on an awful lot when I'm reading. Next up is Mark of the Devil. Now, as much as I adore Mark of the Devil, and I've seen it loads, I'm a huge Udo Kier fan. I think the soundtrack is just beautiful, but forlorn and very poignant. This is the LP with Mark of the Devil 1 and 2 on. And I really like it if I'm reading anything witchcrafty, or, you know, when I was reading the Witches series by Lawrence James, or James Dark as they are on the books, this was one that I did spin an awful lot. And I think Riz Ortolani was maybe influenced by this soundtrack when he wrote the music for Cannibal Holocaust. Next up is a titan of soundtracks, but can be problematic. So this is a bit of a cheat because it is a compilation. It's an Ennio Morricone compilation. Now, then there's a good series of Morricone compilations. There's like kind of a spicy love one. There's a lounge one. There's a western one. There's this one. And another one I've got that's giallo music. Now, this works really well for reading to, because it's more of his discordant, atmospheric music. Now, Morricone could write a tune. God damn, that man could write a tune that just gets stuck in your head and is perfect, musically perfect. It's like, how can one person write so much music that is perfect? But again, the ones that I find that get stuck in my head, I struggle to read to because my brain is kind of humming along to the song. So this is more kind of, it's almost like sinister, discordant jazz. So this is a favourite that I often sit and read to. Next up, we've got a slightly odd one. Bit spicy. It's the soundtrack to Virgin Witch, which the was it Tygon or Tyburn? I think it's Tygon, the Ray Austin movie with Vicky Michelle. It's it's a good choice. It's kind of like groovy late 60s, early 70s keyboardy type stuff, but with a baroque feel to it. And I spin this album a lot when I'm reading early to mid 70s trashy Nels, which you can, there's probably a correlation between Virgin Witch and trashy New English Library books. This was composed by Ted Dix, who oddly enough wrote an LP for Kenneth Williams to sing. But it's an absolute belter of a soundtrack and a rather good movie if you're in the mood for something spicy. And last one, which is a bit of a newer movie. Most of these are old movies. There we go. Yep. It's the soundtrack from A Field in England, the Ben Wheatley film, which I think is a wonderful film. It's kind of very difficult to describe, but the music is kind of, it's like Cromwellian electro ambient, if that's a genre. It is now. There's two songs. Well, there's one song on it repeated twice that does have words. That's like a folk song, which I can kind of tune out a little bit. I mean, the soundtrack's a double LP, so it's quite long. Look at those guys. Just looking at that is making me want to watch the film again. But it's kind of dark, sinister, ambient electronic type music, but with almost medieval instruments just accenting it. And it works for most things occult or sinister or that kind of milieu. So that's 5 LPs that I listen to an awful lot when I'm reading books. So the big question is, what do you listen to when you're reading books? Or is the idea of putting music on when you're reading just abhorrent to you? I'm sure you good folks will let me know. And the crickets are still bloody chirping. I'll try and buy silent crickets. This week's are just so noisy, they're driving me mad. I hope you're all well.